sportbiketrackgear.com, and today I'm going to change the coolant on my 2015 Yamaha YZF-R1. If you're going to ride at the racetrack, okay, you need to have some approved coolant. Okay, the glycol-based stuff that's in the bike stock. If this motorcycle springs a leak or you have a crash and you get coolant on the racetrack, you will be the most hated person at the racetrack because that stuff is harder to clean up than oil. I typically ride with my friends from sportbiketracktime.com. I want to get out there and do a day this weekend, and I need to have compliant coolant right while I'm out there. I'm going to use inch ice. Okay, this is easy cleanup stuff. It's pre-mixed, ready to use, and the best part is this stuff. Okay, it has resistance to freezing. Okay, we've got freeze protection up to -26 degrees Fahrenheit. I live in Michigan, we're based in Michigan. I had this bike for a few years, right? So I'm not going to use the water weather stuff on it. I'm not going to be racing this bike this year, maybe next year, and from the racing I can put that stuff in it. So this is what I am choosing to use. And what we're going to go through is the procedure to change the coolant on the bike. I think this will help a lot of other riders out there. One of the first things that we're going to have to do is we got to get access to this. And I'm going to want to find the lowest spot on the cooling system to use to drain this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin by pulling some body work over here on the right side of the motorcycle. All right, this is going to get us access to our radiator cap, as well as what I believe is probably going to be about the lowest point on the system. I like to do a couple of different things. I like to drain it very thoroughly, and after I've done that, I will typically rinse more water through it, right, to get the majority of the stock coolant out of it. So I pulled that little exhaust shield off. Now we're going to pull our side fairing here. I'm going to pull the fasteners here, these stock fasteners, and now we need to get in between the forks here and pull some of these clips out, right? Push pins that are in here that attach the side panel, the side fairing, to the trim panel, right? The closeout panel here inside. Got a couple of little push pins, pretty easy to find. Just look around in there to get them. Bodywork on this bike is really not that hard to pull off. I think the 2012 R1 that I had was actually, in my mind, a little more difficult than this one. The other thing I'm also going to have to do is install my race bodywork before I go out to the truck. Okay, we've got all the little push pins out there. We're going to come up here. All right, we've got a quick release fastener right there. That is out. Now, to get this off, okay, what you need to do is you need to slide it forward like so, right? You've got this clip here, and then you have the spring steel clip up here that locks right in the front, and then you have a plastic clip here. So a good slide forward is going to get that off for you. This is going to give us access to everything we need. Okay, so I'm not going to have to take apart the other side of the bike just to do the coolant change. All right, so lowest point on the system is going to be this right here, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab myself a drain pan, and we're going to get started then. Is I'm going to pull the radiator cap off. That is going to allow the coolant, right, to flow out much easier when you're able to exchange coolant with air, okay, by allowing the air to enter in from the top of the radiator here, right? And then we're going to remove this, and hopefully this is big enough that it'll suffice as some type of a drain here. It'll definitely be really effective in helping to bleed the system. Yeah, that looks like that's going to work out pretty good. You can see got good flow straight away. So man, they really thought this part through. Remember, dispose of this stuff properly, right? Toxic stuff, this will kill animals, all this stuff, right? You need to treat this like it's engine oil. You don't just go dump it in the weeds. Once I get the motorcycle off the stand, we'll kind of lean it over to the right side, put the drain pan under it again, and let this stuff chug out of there the rest of the way. And then I will run some water through it, okay? And once again, still the water is going to be hazardous that you run through, so you don't want to run a ton through. Water is going to be hazardous, and we're going to want to keep that in here too and dispose of this all properly. It's very important that you do that. You don't want to go polluting your natural environment. I'm going to let this run until it's pretty much done. I'm also going to pull off this coolant reservoir bottle up here and empty this out. Very, very easy to do. Perfect access right here. You can feel when you've got this stuff on your hands, super, super slippery. If you're the guy that puts this stuff on the racetrack, right, whether you're racing or you're at a track day, you will not have any friends. Everyone will hate you. They will shun you. And trust me when I tell you, the racetrack and the organization that put on the event, they're going to be pissed if they catch you violating that coolant rule. That is a big one for sure. I'm going to put this in that pan, and when we come back, right, we're going to be refilling the coolant system, and it's important that you get all the air out. Okay, if you have air pockets in there, especially, you know, in the neighborhood of that water pump will just be moving zero coolant because it's going to be basically in a cavity of air, right? So it'll be pumping nothing. It's very important that before you take this motorcycle to the racetrack, you are confident that it has been bled out perfectly and you don't have any air pockets left in the system. We're going to show you how we're going to do that on our R1. Okay, now we're ready to go back together. Reservoir empty, system empty, and flushed out a bit. We're going to go ahead and begin by putting the drain back in. We will use this to help bleed the system too, so I'm not going to really tighten it up that much to start. So, to begin with, we're going to fill our radiator, okay? Funnel is nice to have here. Makes it a lot easier to get this in. I realize this coolant is the same color, but let me tell you, it's not the same stuff. Every organization has their own requirements. Make sure you check with yours before you choose the coolant that you're going to put in the motorcycle. The last thing you want to do is put in a non-approved coolant and then you got to go through this whole deal at the racetrack. This is definitely something that's nice to be able to have addressed before you show up. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to fill the radiator until we get to the top. Once we get to the top, right, we'll let it settle for a minute. You'll find gravity alone is going to help us with some of the air pockets. After that, I'm going to go ahead and open that drain down there because there's definitely going to be a little bit of an air pocket in that area, right? As you can see with this R1, you're going to need two of these, right? By the time you've got the radiator filled, okay, and you've got your overflow jug filled, you don't want to go diluting this stuff. This is pre-diluted. Okay. Rag, clean this up. When we come back, we're going to be bleeding the system. Okay. Let that settle for a second. And now you're going to want to be kind of quick with this, right? Because this, you know that you've already seen how this comes out. Once the air stops, if there is any, it's going to be straight coolant. It's going to be pretty hard. I'll plug it for a second. If you're using a clean drain pan, you could literally dump this right back in the bottle and put it right in the bike. Okay, so you don't have to waste this coolant. That's all I'm going to need to do there. That looks pretty clean. So you saw you had that one really good burp of air, okay? Got that out of there. And believe it or not, that little bit of air is pretty darn important. Okay, now we're going to come back up here and we're going to focus on the level inside the radiator. And then we will also run the bike a bit. The radiator's almost full. We're going to let that settle a little bit. We're going to take this coolant here out of the drain pan, right? We're going to use that to top everything back off. I still suspect we're going to need to get into that. If you buy 2 of these, then you have plenty to do it, and then you save the remainder of the 1 jug for the next time that you change your coolant. Because like anything, like changing oil, this is something that should be addressed. If it's a race bike every season, it's a street bike every 2 seasons, because leaving the coolant in there for too long, right, the stuff does start to fail, right? It can cause corrosion inside and cooling system issues, and you definitely don't want to experience that. Before we run it, another thing I like to do, right, is I'm going to take the radiator hoses, any hose that I can really reach, and give a squeeze. And if you look here inside of the radiator, you're going to see the coolant level changing a little bit. Oftentimes, and I've already done it a little bit on this bike, so you're not really going to see much of a change, but you'll actually see the coolant level after a few compressions begin to dip a little bit, and this helps to just purge, just before you really start the bike, purge out as much air as possible. And once I've done that, I'm going to top this off just a tickle, right? And we're going to go ahead and run the motorcycle. All right, I would put a little bit in here. I'm not going to fill this yet because I want to get myself into a position where I need to drain that at all, okay? I'm going to top this off a bit, cap it, put a little bit in here, and then we'll start the bike. Okay, now you see that I've got this right in between the hot and the cold mark, right? The marks are on the other side. I've got her capped off. I've got the plug in. Plug is tight. What we're going to do now is I'm going to start the motorcycle. I'm going to run it a bit, and I'm going to keep an eye on the temp gauge, okay? Do the same. You know, let the bike warm up all the way, and keep your eye on this level here. Okay, I've run it. Here's what you're going to see when you run it, right? You got this full. We talked about that. It's capped, plugged, tight, done, you know, just between the hot and the cold mark there, right? When you're going to run it, you're going to see this thing go up to, you know, somewhere around 230 degrees, okay? Your fans are gonna come on and cycle at about 220, okay? Once the fans cycle, it's up to about 230, it's gonna start pulling it down, okay? And then you're gonna see your cooling system begin to function normally. The air is beginning to purge its way out, okay? And this one actually cooled itself all the way down to about 194 degrees, and then it began to gradually rise again, okay? Staying right in that low 200s. Revved a little bit, crept up to about 220. We saw fans come on again. Fans brought the temperature down into the operating range. So we've got the system is cycling and working as designed. Don't go pulling the radiator cap off when it's hot. That's not going to get you anywhere, okay? This stuff's expanding. It's just going to spray all over the place. You want to let it cool down before you double check it. Keep your eye on this level here, right? I'm going to go out, do a session, take a look at this, see where my level's at. If you buy 1 jug, you're going to be literally right on that 1 jug. if you reuse the stuff after you burp it out, okay, you'd be able to pretty much pull this off with one jug. Okay, I took just a sip out of jug 2. You know, I just want all the same stuff in there, no water. You can decide what you want to do there because the stuff is pre-diluted. So one jug, you could technically pull this off. Okay, remember, take a look at the level after you've ridden the motorcycle and don't overfill this thing. Okay, you want to give the system a chance to heat, soak, and burp any out, okay, into here, so you want to leave some room to do that, and this will be adequate room, in my opinion. We're in between the hot and the cold mark. Now it's time to put the side panel back on the bike. You want to start by lining up the clips, okay, that need to slide back in there, and then you've got that spring-loaded metal clip. You give it a little push back, everything jumps right into place. This bike's pretty easy to reassemble. From there, I'm going to come over here. All right, we've got to get the lower fairing, attach this nose down here by the oil cooler. We've got a little push pin here. I'm going to slide that one in. That's going to hold everything in place. This little trim panel here. I'm going to slip this bad boy in. Put our clips in place there. It really isn't too difficult to reassemble. Especially if you put it in the right direction. You can see I had that bad boy backwards, kind of like putting the rear set together. Watch my cameraman trying to text right now, and he knows that every time I catch him texting, he gets in trouble. Tyler, I know it's Friday, stop texting. Little panel back in. We've got our quick release fasteners, okay? Start up here, 4mm T-handle, boom. Got that tight. Once you've had this thing apart a couple times, as I have, I gotta tell you, this thing is put together really, really well. Phenomenal job on this. Get this rear wood one in here. You know, taking this thing apart and putting it back together really isn't that difficult. One more panel down here. And I even managed to find the one clip that I lost, which was cool. Alright, slip this back in. There's a tongue on the end of that that's going to slide into a slot. I want to get that all lined up nicely. Got our 2 fasteners here. These are 5mm. So if you're running street body work, right? That's it, you're done, man. You are ready to go and enjoy your track day with your coolant change. Remember, check all your organization's rules. Make sure that anything else that needs to be addressed has been addressed as well. But this part is going to help get you through the coolant change. This is how to change the coolant on a 2015 Yamaha R1 on Brian Van, sportbiketracker.com.